Today, we're looking at the U.S.S. Enterprise NCC 1701C. This model kit is in 1/1400th scale, which means it matches with the other ships from the Next Generation crew. It's in scale with the classic 1701D and the 1701E. And it's a pretty good size for those ships. It ends up being a pretty good size on a shelf. Now, this ship is pretty unique because it's really from a single episode. It didn't have a series. It didn't get a movie like the Enterprise B did, at least. So it wasn't featured very much, but it is absolutely a fan favorite, mostly because the episode it was in was such a good episode. It was yesterday's Enterprise, and it kind of revealed the fate of this missing Enterprise that we'd never seen before. And it really did some great things with time travel and alternate universes. So just a wonderful episode, and it really led to this ship being very popular. Now, if we take a look at this, the box art is different. After the past couple years, they've switched up the Star Trek universe branding on merchandise and products. So we no longer get that colorful stripe across the top and across the corner representing what series it's from. We kind of have this new Star Trek universe marketing material. So new styles for the boxes. I imagine they'll be on all the Star Trek products going forward. But we get a wonderful shot here of the Enterprise C. Now this is the biggest selling point to this version of the model. This model has been put out in clear before, but this is the first time it's done in this translucent plastic like the Voyager. Over in this corner, Star Trek Next Generation. And the next big thing about this release, we get tons of battle damage decals. Looking at the back of the box, my box did end up a little beat up through shipping, but that's not really a big deal. We can see some of the other features of this release. So it comes with a larger dome base by round 2. And the good thing about this size of dome base is it will have the hollow rod so you can run wires. So not just a dome base, but the one that has the hollow rod. We're going to get a huge sheet of decals with battle damage on them. And of course, wire slide decals. And of course, you can name it as the U.S.S. Enterprise or the Yamaguchi. 47 parts, 15 inches long. And of course, this version will be molded not just in clear, but in that translucent white plastic like the U.S.S. Voyager. Across the side here, we get shots from yesterday's Enterprise. There's our battle damaged ship from that episode. And of course, we get some of the stars of that episode, Guinan and Tasha Yar from an alternate reality. Of course, we get a little bit of a blurb there, a quote from Captain Jean-Luc Picard. And I'm glad we'll still have some quotes on the boxes. A little bit of his captain's log for the episode. And along the side, another shot of the painted and built model. Along the inside of the box, we get our paint guides, like Round 2 has been doing the past couple years. So there are all of our decal callouts and our paint. And of course, if you want the decals that have been made to represent specific parts of battle damage, those are called out as well. Here's our paint guide and battle damage decal guidance for the bottom of the ship. And the side. And of course, if the ship is powered down or damaged, those grills look copper. Now, I've never been good at getting that effect of where they look copper and then you turn the lights on and they look blue. I'll see what I can do on this build. But I do like getting these full color illustrations to show you how to paint it and what it should look like with the decals. And of course, here is our top of the ship. So like always, very nice artwork, paint guides, and decals. All right, let's take a look at the decal sheet for the 1701C Enterprise. All right, no, that's not it. This is actually the decal sheet from one of the older vintage releases. Let's compare that to the new one. All right, so pretty significant difference there. And not just with the battle damage. On the new release, you get the sensor rings to go around the side of the ship. You get some of the markings that go on the thrusters around the saucer. And you get quite a few more pennants to go across. So on this one, it just looks like you have little ones that I believe are just on the main hull. You get some red striping, but quite a few more here. You also get those alternate names for the Yamaguchi or the Enterprise. Looks like you get some markings for the runway to the hangar deck and some markings for the nacelles. Just a handful more of the red stripes and warning labels that go around the ship. And of course, some really wonderful battle damage. This really reminds me of the battle damage that was included with the 1/1000 scale Reliant and 1/1000 scale Enterprise, the Wrath of Khan editions. But this is very nicely done battle damage, and you should have plenty here that you can save for other projects as well. So really a very nice set of decals for this ship. And of course, the Enterprise C doesn't have an Aztec pattern, so we don't need to worry about Aztec decals. We could just do a nice paint job and then put the marking and registry decals on the ship. Let's take a look at the plastic. We have two halves for the engineering hull, just like they've always done. The neck is attached to the ship, and of course it is done in a translucent white plastic. Not quite clear, but definitely light shines through this very easily. So just like on the Voyager, we're going to put some LEDs inside of it. We're going to light block it from the outside, and then you scrape away the paint on the windows, and those windows will light up. It worked great on the Voyager. It will be nice to give it a try on the 1701C. Now, the 1701C back in the 90s, it did have an entire release where it was done completely clear. So this really is following the lineage of that model. Of course, it was all done in truly clear plastic back then, which means it was brittle. You could break it. It could get cracks. This white plastic is much more forgiving than that old clear plastic, which would end up being brittle. So there are the nacelles. They are the same as this kit has always had. All the details the same, the molding's the same. But there's a lot to be said just for the parts of the Enterprise C. These are just good, classic styled nacelles. So if you're kit bashing, the Enterprise C is a great one to go to because it has a nice circular saucer. It has nice standard nacelles, and you can really kit bash this into a lot of different configurations and use it to customize your own ships. Here is that saucer. And of course, you can see there are a lot of windows that are supposed to be on the Enterprise C. And there you can see light is going to shine through it very easily. Yeah, you can see my hand through the plastic there. But nice detailing. You've got phaser strips. You do have lifeboats. There's some great molding around the bridge and the BC decks. And of course, a ton of recessed grid lines that are accurate to the ship. Over on the edge of the saucer, you have indents for those RCS thrusters. And on the edges, I hope you can see it here. I know everything's just a wash of white. There are molded in windows going across the edge of that saucer. Here's the bottom of our saucer, and of course you can see that copyright writing right through the plastic. But once again, nicely done windows, nicely done lifeboats, grid lines. It's a good molding. It always has been. It's always been a good model kit, and I think this edition should let us light it up pretty easily. Here are the two pieces that make up the back of the ship and the pylons, and of course, very nice. It's done in two parts. We need that so we can hide some magnet wire in there. And you can see it does have some gaps for you to run some very thin wire through those pylons to get to the ship. Once again, they did have lighting in mind in the 90s when they made this. So you do have room to run your wires through these pylons. That's very nice. That's not something you can say about the Enterprise D. But we do have a nice easy place there to run wires for this ship. Just a few additional pieces here, a couple of phaser strips that they weren't able to mold in earlier. Looks like we have some parts for the very bottom sensor dome of the saucer, the rear impulse engine, and I believe that is just an addition to help it fit on the new stand. So a couple parts there. And of course we have the parts that were always clear on the ship, whether they did an opaque version of the ship or not. So we get the grills for the warp nacelles. We get the front of those nacelles, the Bassard collectors. We get, I believe, an impulse engine grill, tiny dome for the bottom of the saucer, and of course the deflector dish, which is concave for the Enterprise C. And I'll have to check the instructions for exactly which all of these are, because once again, I think these are, I think they're for the lower saucer dome. And so I'm not sure why I have kind of two impulse grill parts here. I thought it was only one going across the back of the ship, but we'll take a look at the instructions and figure that out. Now, over the course of Star Trek The Next Generation and Star Trek Deep Space Nine, the Enterprise C Studio model was also used as the Yamaguchi, or just a generic Ambassador class ship. And so this model kit can be built up as either one. Now, to do so, you have to change up some of the parts. So instead, this concave deflector dish, if you're doing the Yamaguchi, you have to use this flat one that's included. We also have an alternate part here that is for the very bottom sensor dome of the saucer. So those are alternate parts for the Yamaguchi. We also have a selection of lifeboats that have to be added on when it's the Yamaguchi. Not only do you have to add in lifeboats, you have to remove lifeboats. So some of these lifeboats that are here for the Enterprise C, you would need to sand down and glue these on in the proper places. These two, those are little additional parts that you have to add on to the top of the saucer along with phaser stripes. In fact, that planetary sensor that's on the bottom of the saucer, that one has to be switched out with this, kind of a little bit more of an Excelsior style for the Ambassador class ships. You also have to alter the bottom rear of this engineering hull a little bit more to add in this piece, which adds a little bit more of a structure and a hangar deck to fit underneath the bottom of the Yamaguchi. So quite a bit of additional changes and model work you have to do to change this from the Enterprise C to the Yamaguchi. All right, so that is my first look at this new edition of the Enterprise C, the first time it's been done in this translucent clear plastic made for lighting. And it looks like it'll probably be a larger project than most. There's a lot of masking and painting to get all of those circular shades of blue and gray all across the saucer. Of course, it has to be a very clean looking ship. Of course, I guess I could cover up any mistakes with the battle damage decals. But this will probably be a longer build than some of them. I can't really race through it. But I am going to build this up. I am going to light it. I'm going to light those windows by putting lights inside, light blocking it, and then just scraping away the paint to make those lit windows. We'll light the nacelles. We'll light the deflector dish. So it's going to be a project we're going to do over the next couple weeks. So hopefully you guys will stick around the channel and watch those videos to kind of see how this one builds up, to get an idea of how I build it and kind of plan out your own build. So this model kit will be coming out this fall, so you guys will see it in hobby stores fairly soon. Once again, thanks for following the channel. Thanks for checking out allscaletrek.com forums. Big thank you to AMT and Round 2 for letting me take a look at this kit early. And we'll be back with more model builds soon.